My name is Nidžara Ahmetašević. Hello and welcome to the first podcast by the Digital Communication and PR Department at the International University Burch, Sarajevo. Our first guest is Henri Sulku. Henri is a journalist and editor of the Turning Point magazine, and recently he was part of the crew on the flotilla toward Gaza. Like everybody else, Henri was abducted and held in detention for a couple of days. It happened in September this year. Today, Henri is with us and he will tell us about this experience and his reasons to be part of the flotilla.
Thank you for inviting here. And yes, it has been now 3 weeks almost, little bit less than 3 weeks. We were released on Sunday, the 12th of October.
And having in mind that you went through very extreme experience, you feel quite okay?
Yes, I mean, it was quite a demanding trip. Also, the boat trip was kind of physically exhausting in a way. And of course, during the detention, I also lost like my laptop, my working phone, my working camera. So there was also a lot of practical difficulties of coming back home and continuing work. But at the moment, everything is good. I have been back in Milan, where I'm based, and continuing my work at the moment.
Okay, can we go back to the mission and can you tell us more about the mission, how it came together, who participated, and what was the goal of the mission?
Yes, so this mission, as you mentioned, I work for this international online magazine called Turning Point, and one of the organizers of this boat called our editor in New York. Also, this organization behind the boat is American organization called Global Freedom Flotilla Coalition. So they called our editor in New York, said that now they are organizing a big boat. Like at the time, there were a lot of these small sailing boats, part of the Global Sumut Flotilla going towards Gaza. So this Freedom Flotilla boat was much bigger. We were almost 100 people on board. And what was particular about this boat, which this organizer, Huwaida Arraf, also communicated for us in the very beginning, is that this boat is for medical workers and media workers. So their aim was to bring media and healthcare workers into Gaza and let us do our work, which we actually should be able to do under normal conditions. International reporters can go to war zone, humanitarian organizations can go to war zones. In the case of Gaza, it was not possible because of the blockade and siege that has been already for 2 decades, and now especially after the October 7, 2023, it has been quite impossible to move in or out. So the mission of this boat was to try to break this media siege that is imposed around Gaza, and also to show solidarity towards our colleagues there on the ground, because both media workers and healthcare workers have been systematically targeted during this ongoing war in Gaza. There are more than 250 journalists killed and more or less same amount of doctors and other healthcare personnel. So this was the aim of the boat. It was not so much about humanitarian aid, it was more about providing access for healthcare and media personnel to reach the besieged enclave.
Can you take us to the boat, to put it in that way? How was that, and how was day to day on the boat? For how long you stayed there?
We stayed roughly 8 days. Eventually we were intercepted in the middle of the night between October 7th and 8th. So as I mentioned, it was a little bit bigger boat, like proper ferry, compared to the sailing boats. But still, we were quite a lot of people, considering the size of the vessel. We were 92 people in the end. So the boat was quite crowded. Let's say we had, the passenger area has these rows of 3 seats, little bit like in trains or buses. So we were basically sleeping one person on the 3 chairs and one person on the food area. So we were really like sardines during the nighttime. But despite this, there was very kind of friendly atmosphere. Like there was this, let's say, spirit of being on a common mission. Everyone was trying to help each other and put effort that we don't start to develop any tensions or arguments during the trip. So the atmosphere was very cooperative and friendly. And of course, in this kind of boat, nobody can be a free rider because we have to organize everything by ourselves, like including cleaning, cooking, taking care of the drone watch. We had 24/7 drone watch, meaning that there are few people on the deck looking at the sky, because there had been these earlier attacks around Tunis and Crete against other boats, dropping some incendiary devices or kind of improvised explosives. So we had to all the time have 2-3 people, even 4 people watching the sky, that nothing is coming. Besides this, we were quite freely to work, because each of us, especially the journalists, we had a lot of work to do, of course, like communications and this kind of things. So most of the daytime, we had a small part of the boat kind of press office where we had a Starlink connection, and we were just doing our work. Basically, that's it. Besides, every day we had a kind of meeting in the morning to share some information, make some decisions that concern everyone. And then every day we had also some exercises or drills for boat safety, like if there is some problem with the boat, we must know how to move 100 people fast, but also for the potential interception. We were training every day, 1, 2, 3 times in random times. They just call the boat radio to say, now is a drill, how to move fast to the designated area where we can then face the potential interception. So also these trainings were quite intensive, because this boat, I forgot to mention, it was organized very fast. It was going towards Gaza already in May this year, but they had to stop the mission because the boat was bombed heavily in Malta, close to Malta. It was not fit for seas, not fit for sailing, so they were repairing the boat, and in the end, it was put together in 1 week. Like all the people were invited, and me also, I joined with very few days of notice, like 3 days of preparations. So usually, as far as I understood, they would have some 1 week training before going to the boat. So we had only 1 day. So for this reason, we also continued the training every day, how to, especially for the interception, how to avoid panic, how to remain non-violent, how to mentally handle the situation, how to support each other if we see that someone is struggling. So this was more or less the daily life. Quite a lot of work.
I guess you were also talking about how to keep on with this tension that you feel all the time. You were aware that there is a big possibility that you will be intercepted. You were at the same time hoping that you will reach Gaza. So these are like 2 completely different things that you have to prepare yourself.
Yes.
How was that, and how was that process for you?
I mean, there was quite a widespread atmosphere on the boat that we will likely be intercepted. It was considered the more probable scenario. I don't know, I cannot give you numbers, but people said, maybe 80%, maybe 90% we will be stopped. So this little bit dominated the thinking or the mental preparation on the boat. So then after we witnessed a couple of after first couple of days with some other journalists, we witnessed that we are actually preparing only for that scenario. We started to push the discussion more towards like, okay, if we go to Gaza, what do we actually do? Because, even if it's smaller probability, you should still be prepared for it, because it's one of the most central war zones at the moment. There is a genocide going on. Journalists cannot go in, and you may go in for, let's say, 24 hours, 48 hours, 1-2 days, if you want to come back with the boat. If you want to stay, you could have stayed, but you would be completely on your own. If you wanted to come back, you should be back on boat in 1 or 2 days. So then we started to have discussion. Okay, we go there as a journalist. You have 24 hours to time. What should you do? Like, there were different ideas. Maybe we can connect with some local journalists. Maybe they have some material to give us to get out of Gaza that they cannot get out by internet. Maybe where we land, maybe there are some points of alleged war crimes that have not been possible to investigate because of the siege. Maybe we can go to one of these sites and document it. Maybe we can try to meet as many people as possible, collect interviews. There were different proposals, but this, and then some people, let's say, they had also their individual plans. For example, there was one documentarist who had for a long time had this plan of going to Gaza and make a documentary there, and he was just following his own plan. But the rest of us, we started to develop different options, and then also consulting the both organizers what could be possible or not. So yeah, this was more or less.
And one very practical thing to ask, how do you pack for this kind of trip? Is there something you cannot have, something you have to have? You cannot have much of the things with you, I guess. So how do you pack? How do you prepare, like in that sense?
Yeah, that was also for me a question, because I have made not similar, we cannot say similar, but I have made some reporting trips to conflict zones, and I start to know more or less what to pack. Like, you have your laptop, you have your computer. If you have some kind of portable internet, very good. If not, try to find Wi-Fi's or local SIM card. How you say, this extension cable with several chargers, several sockets, very important, because maybe you have just one plug, but you have to charge several devices, audio recorder, camera, whatever, like usual field equipment. I don't know, personally, I never had protective gear or, vests or helmets. In this trip, I didn't see anyone carrying them. So I think quite light equipment. Then there was, of course, the question of sea, which was for me something completely new. I had absolutely no idea what should be taken for the sea. So I just bought some, this kind of dry bags that you can close, waterproof, for the electric devices, some medicines. The organizers gave us also a list of medicines that could be useful, like motion sickness, seasickness. But we were all traveling very, very light, just one backpack, and including sleeping bag inside the backpack. So very, very light.
And then the interception happened. Can you recall that moment? How did it happen, and what really happened there at the boat?
Yes, so the interception happened in the night between December 7 and 8. We actually, on September 7th in the evening around 9 p.m., we entered the so-called danger zone, which is the zone where the Israeli Navy has historically started to stop these boats. Like, this organization that organized this boat was established, I think, in 2008 when the siege of Gaza started, and 2010, if I'm not mistaken, they made their first boat mission towards Gaza. So they have, and ever since they have every year tried to send a boat to Gaza. So they had quite a lot of experience over the years, and they more or less knew where the danger zone starts. So we entered this danger zone, let's say, in around 9 October 7th. I happened to be actually on drone watch that night. I took double shift to be able to, I mean, I wanted to stay awake because of the danger, but also to be able to see the first signs if there are any. And we didn't see anything. Like until 4 o'clock in the morning, we didn't see absolutely nothing. We were very close to Egypt, just 20 nautical miles away from Egypt. So we saw a lot of boats coming from Suez Canal. We saw a lot of airplanes going to Egypt or from there to Europe, but nothing suspicious at all. I finished my shift. It was, I don't know, maybe a little bit after 4. I went to do some small work on the computer. For some reason, I thought that I would stay awake until the sunrise, just because it's safer to sleep in daytime in terms of you want to be ready for if something happens. So then I went just on the deck in the middle of the night. I think I was, I don't know, drinking some tea, smoking a cigarette with one of the medics. We were just admiring how calm and beautiful everything was. And then someone came from the bridge, the command bridge of the ship, and grabbed me from the shoulder and said that, hey, you are a journalist, go to the bridge because now they are intercepting us. So it came quite out of blue, let's say. And I went to the bridge, and they had sent us some kind of pre-recorded message, like which explained their point of view.
Sorry, when you say they, you are talking about Israel.
Israeli Navy. So they called us that we are part of some Hamas campaign. We don't have right to go to Gaza. They argue it's a military zone for our security and for their operational security. They cannot let us there. Bring your humanitarian aid to Israel, to the port of Ashdod, and they will bring it from there to Gaza after checking that it's legitimate. And then the negotiator from our side explained the international law that we are humanitarian vessel. They have no right to interfere with us on the high seas. Actually, we have all the rights to go to Gaza, deliver the humanitarian aid. And this kind of back and forth went on for 5 minutes or something. We called also Port Said in Egypt, say that, okay, we want to come there. We have emergency. We communicated, or our negotiator communicated to the Israeli Navy also that we changed our course. We are now on the way to Port Said. But they said that, no, if you don't comply with us, we will come and take over the boat with force. And yeah, very fast after that, we started to see the lights of the Zodiac boats. We started to hear the sound of helicopters. And I think just few minutes passed and they already had their first helicopter like directly on top of our ship. And yeah, this is more or less how it started. And our plan was to bring all our people to the back of the boat, like on the open deck where we are visible. They see that actually the people were chanting also, we are journalists, we are medics. It was clear that we were on a humanitarian mission, we were civilians, we were journalists and medical professionals. This was communicated several times. But anyway, they brought the helicopter like directly on top of us, just some between 7 and 10 meters on top of us, pointed us with laser pointers. And when the helicopter is very, very close to you, there is a very strong wind, no? So they also kind of suppressed us that we cannot move. In that kind of wind, you can be flown over the port to the sea. So they kept us in place, and then they, from the other helicopter and from the boats, they loaded their soldiers on the boat, on our boat. And from there, they did some kind of standard body check, like just checking our pockets, if we had any weapons, if we had any, I don't know what, objects with us. At this point, actually, they already started stealing some equipment. For example, from me, they took my GoPro camera at this point. They just put it in their pocket, and I was like, hey, that's my professional equipment. He said that, oh, no worries, you will get it back when we get to the port. But I mean, if you see a soldier taking your stuff and put it in their pocket without making any kind of documentation, you know that it's basically stolen, it's gone. And at this point, they also started a little bit separating us, like, trying to identify some troublemakers or put people in different categories. What I was surprised was that this was actually pretty racial profiling. Like they took all the Arabs, all the Turks to they first took all of them out, put them in one place. I don't know, I guess in their perspective, they were more threatening, or I don't know. They considered or this is something that for me appeared that, for example, Arab, they considered more like an enemy. For us Europeans, they considered maybe that we were somehow confused, we didn't know what we were doing, that we somehow ended up in some Hamas operation without knowing about it. Or they tried to communicate this kind of idea towards us. But the Arabs and Turks, they took aside. And after that, they packed all of us into the restaurant area of the boat, like put us sitting there. And there we spent the rest of the time on the sea. It took still like full speed, 13 hours to get from the point where we were stopped to Israel.
So, sorry to interrupt, but practically they overtook your boat, and with the same boat they took you to Israel port.
Yes, so they, at gunpoint, they took us all to the restaurant area, put us there to sit, and row the boat with us still on board to Israel.
At that
And
moment,
for this part of the travel also, it was a little bit difficult, especially for the older people, because after the sun started to rise, the restaurant area with 100 people inside, it became really hot. Like there were, I don't know the exact degree, but more than 30 degrees, maybe 40 degrees heat inside. We were 100 people. Some people were sleeping, some people were kind of fainting. So it was a little bit rough the last 12 hours. But I have to say, it was obvious that the Israeli Navy had also some kind of instructions not to mishandle us, let's say. Like when we needed to go to toilet, we could go to toilet. When we needed to do something else, it was more or less like normal treatment. And actually they also offered like water and food and medics, and they had their cameraman all the time recording these kind of situations. So it was obvious that the Israeli Navy had some kind of instructions to record some kind of propaganda how well they are treating us during the arrest.
and then you are arriving to the Israel port, and what is happening there?
Yeah, so this is the curious thing, that during the arrest, when we were at the hands of the Navy, as I mentioned, they tried to do their best for everything to look nice. Actually, many of us, we refused the water and food and so on because we knew that this is they are basically filming a propaganda film, and many didn't want to participate in this kind of propaganda setup. But then when we arrived at the port, the situation changed actually completely. Like from this propaganda effort, they actually even kind of make jokes that welcome to Israel, now you will see. And when I was already going out of the boat, I saw that they had like a row of soldiers, and then towards the bridge, a small bridge where you go to land, and there was something like, let's say, 20 police officers and immigration officials waiting us. So they put us to walk one by one over the bridge, and then something like, let's say, between 3 and 5 people grabbed you and started like physically abusing you immediately when you arrived on land. So for some people like myself, they took my hands, they put them behind back, forced the head towards the ground, and walked me from there. Other people, they just beat immediately on the spot, like 5 or 6 immigration officials, just a kind of group assaulted, and then brought us one by one from there. And they put us in this kind of, I don't know, parking lot type of thing, kneeling on the ground. There was a lot of Israeli flags everywhere. There was some kind of music playing, I don't know what, because it was in Hebrew. There was a crowd of people taking photos and selfies about us. No, they were uniformed. So I believe most of them were like immigration officials. And yeah, at this point we were like 80 people kneeled on the ground like cattle. Also, for example, in front of me was an older woman, Veronica O'Keefe from Ireland, like retired professor of psychology. She really struggled to stay 1 hour on her kneeling on her knees, and they were obviously picking up on her because every time she tried to change her position, they came, forced her head on the ground, insulted her. So this was a little bit strange episode. It lasted like 1 hour. Maybe some of you have seen also these videos from the Global Flotilla, where the Minister Ben Gvir also goes to insult the flotilla people. So it was this same place, and seemed like completely irregular procedure just for some other propaganda purposes. And then in the port, we went through, after that strange humiliation procedure, we entered a more normal border control. Like in the port, they treated us, let's say, a little bit like what they call illegal immigrants. Like this was also what they accused us, that we illegally entered Israel, which was kind of ridiculous because we were on Egypt. They took over our boat, they brought us to Israel, and then they accused us of illegally entering Israel. So then they put us in strip searches, they go through our backpacks, they throw all your stuff away. I think similar treatment like many immigrants also face if they are caught in different borders. Also here in Europe, like very typical, like slightly humiliating, slightly aggressive. They treat your personal belongings like they are trash. If it's not money, they will just throw it away. If it's not passport, they will just throw it away. I lost basically everything, all my clothes. When I finally got out of Israel, I just had my passport and money. Everything rest was gone during these different processes. And yeah, in this manner we entered through the border control. They took our fingerprints and passports, also put us in the system, and from there this was also actually the only moment where we could see lawyer, that there was one desk where they informed us that you have illegally entered Israel, and you can either appeal to how you say fast, or you can sign a document that okay, I just want to get out, like I don't need to even see a judge, I just want to get out. Or if you don't sign, they put you, they hold you until you see the judge, who gives more, how you say, extends the detention, and eventually you will be kicked out. But in any case, you will be kicked out. Seeing the judge is mainly whether they can hold you more than 72 hours or not. So we after this border process, they put us in a kind of small van, blindfolded, handcuffed, and from there we went to prison.
And they took you to the same prison where they usually take Palestinian prisoners, or it's a different kind of like facility that you were taken to?
Absolutely, we were taken to the Siot prison in the Negev desert. I think it's the biggest prison in Israel. Definitely the main facility where Palestinians are held. Like it's what I could understand, I saw only very little portion of the facility, but what I understood, it's like a proper concentration camp, like makeshift facilities. It's more than 400,000 square meters. It's like a huge facility. There are something like, at the time when we were detained, there were something like 11,000 Palestinians imprisoned, and something like almost half of them in this particular facility.
Did you have a possibility to see them, any of the Palestinians there?
No, I mean, it's a combination, because as I mentioned, on the other hand, it's like makeshift facilities. On the other hand, it is a high security prison, where also, how you say, accused or alleged terrorists may be held, or like more very, very high security prison. So it's easy for them. I mean, obviously they didn't want us to get in contact with Palestinians, and in that kind of setting, it's very easy to organize. We were in our own place. We couldn't see. We saw maybe 1% of the overall facility. Just the corridor where our cells were located.
I listened to one of the interviews you gave to other media, and you mentioned that in the place where you were held, you could hear the bombings from Gaza. That's very surreal experience also. So you were quite near.
Absolutely, because this prison complex it's very close to the border with Egypt and very close to Gaza. So we could hear the airplanes, we could hear also bombs, like explosions. Of course, you couldn't tell where and how who they are, but everyone kind of knew that only kind of probable answer is that is Israeli planes going to Gaza. Who else could be flying there? And it was pretty surreal situation, because of course during the boat trip we also followed news, and the last news that we had was that there would be a ceasefire, and it was supposed to start, I think, on the 9th of October, if I'm not mistaken, which was the day that we were imprisoned. And we heard the bombs. We were like, okay, what's going on? The negotiations, they collapsed, or we were in complete news blackout, of course, in prison. So we had a lot of, how you say, curiosity about what happened. Is there ceasefire? Is there not ceasefire? Maybe there is not, or maybe there is, but Israel is still bombing. We were in a little bit this kind of uncertain mood.
Finally, you were released and sent back. I saw your pictures when you were released. You were dressed in some kind of all of you were dressed the same. You came back with the slippers. What is that?
Yeah, so this was basically the prison uniform. Like at some point already at the border controls, they took basically everything of us. Even the shoelaces and belts, which often for me is a sign that, okay, now we are going to prison, because belts and shoelaces maybe you can use to hurt yourself or other people. So I thought we would go in our normal clothes, where we happened to have at the time. But when we arrived to the Xiot prison, they actually took our own clothes away. They gave us this kind of sweatsuit, jumper and trousers, gray, white T-shirt and sandals, and that was it. Like no socks even. And this is also one of the, I think one of the high security prison qualities, that they really take everything. You don't have anything personal with you. No books, no pens, no, I don't know, not even personal clothes. You have just the prison uniform, and they try to in this way also psychologically impact you.
And now you are expelled from Israel. For how long?
So yeah, this was also, I heard at the border. For some reason, I missed it during the trainings, or I wasn't aware of it before. But 100 years, which is which is a long time. I once got some entry ban for 5 years, but I mean 100 years is more than life, so we can say forever.
On a very personal note, at the end, why have you done this? And do you regret now having in mind everything that you went through?
No, I don't regret at all. I mean, I knew that it was kind of low chance to get in to Gaza in this way. I knew that the chance of being stopped and arrested or detained would be bigger. But I mean, I definitely think it was worth it, because, yeah, this fact that more than 250 local journalists have been killed. There is this complete siege around Gaza, preventing, I mean, of course, food, medicine, life essentials, which is why it's at the moment understood as an instrument of genocide. But as a smaller but still significant part, it prevents also foreign journalists and foreign medical personnel also to go in and actively participate in this situation. So even if the chance was low, the kind of reward, or how you say, as a conflict reporter, you always think of risk and reward. You have something that you want to achieve, and then you think what you are willing to risk, what kind of risk you can take for that level of potential achievement. So in this case, I think it was absolutely worth it. Like a small, so the likely scenario was not death. It was not. I mean, there was maybe small chance of death. Maybe there was little bit bigger chance of long detention in Israel, but the biggest probability was, as it happened now, that it will be short detention and deportation. So I think it was definitely the worth it. I have no regrets about this.
Would you do it again and break these 100 years?
Yes, I mean, when I left for this ship, I mean, it happened very fast. It was like 3 days notice. I was thinking that, okay, I can do it. I can make myself there, at least for this time. Maybe there will never be a chance to go to this kind of boat again. But now, with the 100-year entry ban, maybe I will go to boat again, because it seems that this can be the only way. I mean, at the moment, it was already the only way to get in, because Israel controls the border with Egypt. It controls the the sea, also the land with Israeli territory. So this was de facto the only way to get in, and maybe for me now personally it can be also in future.
At the end, is there something that you want to say that I didn't ask and that you think it's important and that is missing from the...
Well, maybe one thing, because this it relates to the mission of this boat also. As I mentioned, this boat was not so much about humanitarian aid. It was about bringing people, about providing access for international journalists, international humanitarian and healthcare workers. And I think this mission is very important. Even now, if we have some kind of seemingly very fragile ceasefire, I mean, humanitarian aid is one thing, but really what we should focus, in my opinion, at the moment is about reconstruction, about supporting, in this case, the people of Gaza to reconstruct their own means of subsistence, their own means of being able to make food, being able to make media, being able to have your own hospitals and your own professionals like doctors, nurses. Because if you don't have your own media, if you don't have your own hospitals, not to even speak of food, medicine, and this kind of things, you are completely dependent on humanitarian aid. No, and this will not create the conditions for peace. Like, if you want peace, people must be like self-sufficient. Otherwise, they cannot make self-sufficient decision to pursue peace. So this, I think, is something that I would also try to continue as a journalist also after this trip, to try to support the Palestinian colleagues in this case to reconstruct their own media, to, I don't know, maybe educate new professionals to replace the ones that have been targeted and killed during the past 5 years. And I mean, this for me is something that I really took from this particular ship, and I think is very important. Like self-determination, reconstruction, this I think provides, regardless of what happens on the high levels of diplomacy, this is something I perceive very important for all of us. And
thank you very much. It was very important, and we are more than grateful that you have been today with us. And I will show you the students for a second.
Hey, nice to see you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
See you. Bye.